If you love $9 Monday and $2 Tuesday, you're really going to appreciate our new Throwback Thursday when all daily packages are slashed in half. Yes, you heard right at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. All Thursday daily packages are now 50% off. This means that a 4% package will be only $12.50. A 5% top-rated play, normally priced at $35, will be only $17.50. And the hottest sales item of the day, get a full day of access from the handicappers of your choice. That's one day of every applicable play they release, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $39 for only $19.50. The best part is you can come back every Thursday to take advantage of this limited time 50% off spring off.
Hey guys, welcome in on a very happy Monday, the final Monday of March. Kind of hard to believe, but yes, March Madness is almost behind us. Well, we got 4 teams remaining. One will be crowned a national champion, and it has been an absolute roller coaster. March Madness this year, even more chaos than I think any of us here at Wager Talk thought we might get. But hey, no number ones, no number twos. We've got no number threes. We've got total chaos going on across the board here. And we're going to try to take a look here at what is left, what's going on. Don't forget, we got still another game coming up, tournament, the NIT out in Vegas over the next couple of days as well to crown a champ. So we still got some college basketball to break down and to go over. So we'll do that today here. Some of the initial thoughts with 3 of the best at WagerTalk.com college hoops extraordinaires is what we got here. As we welcome in Drew Martin in the house, ready to go, as is RR1L. Steve Merrill here to go, and Mr. Finn, they like to call him in most jail cells. It's a pleasure, gentlemen. Always happy Monday. Shall we say chaos? It's a good thing there, Drew. It's a little more chaos, I think, than any of us thought we were going to get, but yet here we are down to 4 teams. What were some of your takeaways from the weekend here, man? What'd you think of what we got?
Chaos is a great way to explain it, Joe. Great Elite 8, Sweet 16, the weekend overall. I mean, entertaining from a fan standpoint. I guess it sort of ended there with the Creighton San Diego State. Was it a foul? Was it not?
Oh.
Hey, I had a Creighton ticket in my pocket, so I don't think the call should have been made. But hey, overall, this, you touched on it. I mean, chaos. This is the maddest March Madness of my lifetime. And Joe was going to use kind of the sentiment there. You're saying no 1 seed, no 2 seed, no, like you could make the argument. It can't be in your analysis here of why you're making the bet. Hey, this team was underseeded. All these teams were underseeded that are left, man. It's been a fun March Madness, and I'm excited for the Final Four. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, absolute craziness. I mean, you don't have to look any further than FAU. Opened the season up 2,500 to 1. The second highest preseason odds to actually get a single-digit ranking there in the tournament as a 9 seed. Last one to do it back in 2008 with Wofford, who somehow made it to a number 7 seed, and they were 5,000 to 1. So absolute craziness across the board. Brackets getting blown up left and right. And I'm with you, Drew, in that game yesterday. Literally watched for 39 minutes and 50 seconds. San Diego State and Creighton beat the living shit out of one another and not get a whistle. Like, there were no whistles. They let him play, and then that was what you blew the whistle on? So, like, oh, come on. I would have loved to have seen a few more minutes. You know, a little overtime would have been fantastic, but it wasn't meant to be there. Merrill, I'm thinking you had San Diego State, so you're okay with the whistle. But what were your thoughts, some of the takeaways here this weekend?
Yeah, exactly, Joe. I was going to say I was perfectly fine with the finish in that game. And look, if I do think, look, in hockey, in overtime, or the game on the line, they obviously could basically murder somebody and they're not going to call it. And in hockey, there's also only 4 or 5 goals scored in a game, right? So the referees are deciding like 30% of it with a penalty, a power play. But, basketball, you got over 100 some points scored. And if it's a foul, it should be called. Question is if it was much of a foul. I thought Jay Wright had a good point. He said what they look for as coaches is consistency. If that was being called throughout the game, then it should be called there. He felt like maybe it hadn't been called consistently. Tough way for a game to be decided, but 2 really good teams. In fact, I had a really good weekend. Perfect 4-0 sweep in the Elite 8 on Saturday and Sunday for my best bets and for my clients. 6-1 overall. The only one I missed was actually fading Miami with Houston on Friday. We went 2-1 on Friday, had San Diego State over Alabama, and then I came right back with Miami yesterday, though. Got to be nimble as a handicapper, right? And I thought they were a live dog. So it worked out pretty well on a monster run as we head into Monday. NBA best bet tonight. Don't forget it's $9 Monday. I'm going to try to get my final 4 best bets up today as well for $9 Monday. So check out my page, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
Great stuff there. Thought Merrill might be okay with the way that call went there. Tony Finn, how was the weekend, and what are some of your thoughts on what we had here with the Sweet 16 Elite 8?
Well, the weekend was real good into Saturday, should I say. I had 3 strong cards, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I wasn't, obviously, after Thursday's games, I could put the Saturday card together. And at that point in time, I'd had some big ticket plays. I'd had a 5% big ticket Thursday. It wins. A 5% big ticket Friday. It wins. And I had a game that rated just as strong on Saturday, and it lost by 28 points. So that Gonzaga UConn game was the surprise for me, very far off. I want to say this, Joe. The things that aren't surprising are the inconsistencies of the officials in this tournament this year. I think a big part of why we're where we're at 2 5 seeds, on and upward. That makes for a chaotic tournament as well. Coaches, they game plan for certain things. That physical game, a lot of it was physical. Then there was games like the KU Arkansas game where we had 2, 3, 4 guys foul out, 5 guys with 4 fouls. Crazy, couldn't touch the other player. But in these physical games, that's where the discrepancy, that's where the problems come. I like physical play, don't be wrong. However, it wasn't that physical of a call, right? That was physical of a foul, that last one there in Creighton game. However, and if you look at the play again over and over again, and I did just because I knew we'd have these questions, right? He really didn't fade off to the left or even didn't go into his his Hollywood drama routine until after he let go of the ball. So for those it worked out for, terrific. For those that didn't, I understand their grief and their arguments. So looking forward to the Final Four, though.
Yeah, it's the first real situation with the refs, I think, that we had most tournament long that just seemed, hey, if you're not going to blow the whistle all game, you're going to let them beat the living crap out of one another.
Yeah.
Do not call that. Let them go and figure it out. That's the whole problem. But hey, listen, plenty of shots. I mean, you also can't go 2 of 17 as a 38% 3-point shooting team. You can't go 2 of 17 and then expect anybody to cry a tear over. You had more than enough times there or opportunities to be able to make a shot. Creighton didn't do it.
And Joe, let's not forget they were a 2-point dog. So if it ends tied at the end of regulation, which was worst case scenario there, you still should theoretically have gotten the cover. Plus, one of the worst inbound plays ever. And I'll be telling my 10-year-olds tonight at AAU practice, by the way, we're going to be discussing this. If you're going to make a mistake, you don't make it under your own basket. I know the guy was trying to lob the pass in, but you can't do that. So, yeah, I mean, it would have been a fortunate win for Creighton backers, in my opinion. But, yeah, it can go either way, and it came down to the wire.
Right. I mean, they had plenty of opportunities in that game. If you're a 38% 3-point shooting team, that is a ridiculous negative variance for you in that game, only going 2 of 17. So even on a bad day, they still should have made 5 or 6 buckets there with the attempts, but it's not meant to be. That's why they call it madness. But when you put it all together here, guys, we got 4 teams left, 3 of them making their first appearance in the Final Four. Just absolutely crazy. No 1, no 2, no 3. There is a 9, and that 9 is FAU, the Florida Atlantic Owls, taking on the San Diego State, the Whales. No, I'm sorry, the San Diego State Aztecs is what we got here. Opens up as a small favorite here. San Diego State, I believe, -2. The total, shocker, pretty low there for this one. 131 and a half here. Reliance Stadium in Houston is going to be center stage here. And for those, keep in mind, this is now, I believe, the 4th Final Four that is set in the city of Houston. I think our man behind the scenes, Robert, can attest to that. UCLA, UConn, and Nova have all won championships here at Reliance Stadium in the past. So they are going to be hopping, ready to go. And Florida Atlantic and San Diego State, they will be first up in the Final Four. So I'm not going to ask you guys, obviously, to lock in anything here. There's still plenty of time to be able to look at some of the numbers. But your initial thoughts here, Drew Martin, on this interesting matchup between Florida Atlantic and San Diego State. I'm refuse to call a team that is 35-3 a Cinderella. There is no Cinderella in 35 wins here, Drew. So what are you thinking of this matchup initially here?
I agree with you, Joe. I mean, it's not a true Cinderella. It really isn't. I mean, 3 losses on the season. They're flirting with 70% against the spread. And they're coming from Conference USA. Conference USA is 15-1 now in the postseason, with Charlotte winning the CBI. There's only 3 postseason tournaments here, guys. The 49ers won that one. And half of the NIT Final Four in Las Vegas starting tomorrow is Conference USA teams with North Texas and UAB. So Cinderella, I think, is kind of the wrong marketing towards this team, which obviously they'll get, Joe, as a 9 seed. I look at this FAU team, Joe, and they are just a very difficult matchup. They got 4 guys that can all handle the ball and shoot. And that center from Russia down low, the big boy 7-footer, he is a very skilled big man. He knows his role. He's good on the defensive end, and he's quick with the ball right up to the rim. He's a big part of their success as well. Now they're going up against San Diego State here, Joe. And San Diego State guards the 3-point line very well. Very good defensive team overall. So it's pretty much what's got them here. And 3-point defense, we kind of talked about it. That you touched on it with Creighton and their mishaps from behind the arc. FAU likes to shoot the 3 as well, and they're very good at it. But San Diego State, with that 3-point defense, there's something to that, guys. That's what's kind of on the Aztec side here. Plus, it's in Houston, like you talked about, Joe, and it's in the Texans arena there. At NRG, I believe it's called. So keep in mind, guys, it's a football stadium. You get that extra distance in between the basket and kind of the stands in the background. Sometimes that can hurt 3-point shooting. So keep that in mind as well. But overall, from a matchup standpoint, Joe, I'm not looking to go against this FAU team. I'm really not. I think they can win the national championship. They would have a tough time against UConn or Miami if they do make it that far. They're going to have a tough time against San Diego State as well. San Diego State playing that defensive basketball, getting to this point. The reason I lean towards the Owls at the open, though, Joe, sidewise, is because FAU has proven they can beat up and down teams, going fast pace. And they've proven a team like Tennessee that plays a similar style, they can win a low-scoring game as well. So I think that kind of bodes well for the Owls here. And overall, it does need to be noted, guys, from a total standpoint, San Diego State is 12 straight games to the under. Watch out. We've seen a full-point move here towards the under. It's in the football stadium, Final Four, the lights on, nerves might be, happening in the beginning. It makes me actually lean towards the under as well, Joe. I don't like to step in front of those trends, say, oh, this is the time they're going to go over. No, 12 straight games to the under. They play slow defensive basketball. I'd actually look under at the open, Joe.
So it's so funny too. One of the things that I read, and I couldn't believe it, but it makes total sense here, that non-power conference teams, right, Drew? Like the Conference USA, the FAUs, the San Diego States, some of these non-traditional powers. We've only had, Merrill, one national champion to come from one of these conferences here. Any idea who that? I know Finn knows, but where do you think
I would
is?
get. Well, I was going to say, does Memphis qualify? Because they're in Conference USA. That's why I thought Memphis, but I don't think they qualify.
It's UNLV was the last
there we
team
go.
non-power conference to actually win a so this is kind of uncharted territory here, and yet here they are, FAU, San Diego State. One of them's going to have an opportunity here to play for a national championship. It's kind of crazy. You were on San Diego State. I think you've actually cashed a few tickets with them now here over the last couple of games. So what was your initial thought when you realized it's FAU?
Well, I didn't love this matchup because I've been on both these teams quite often. In fact, I've had FAU, I believe, every tournament game so far. So I've gone 3-1 against the spread. The only time they didn't cover in their 4 wins was, of course, against the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. So these have been two really good moneymakers for my clients, Joe, during the tournament. We've cashed with them in almost every single round. I actually played against San Diego State in the first round. That we had a best bet on Charleston, who led a lot of that game, So it's kind of crazy. San Diego State was very fortunate to even get by the first round against a good mid-major team in Charleston. We're going to talk about the Miami game in a moment. I actually faded Miami with Drake in the first round, and Drake led like probably 90% of that game outright and then played not to lose late. So it just shows how much random variance there is in one-and-done scenarios. These teams were all very fortunate to be here. I had Florida Atlantic against Memphis. They win that game by a point late. So 3 of these 4 Final Four teams probably should have been out in the first round. If they were to play 10 times, they probably would have lost 5 or 6 out of those 10 games in the first round, and now they're in the Final Four. So it's crazy. It is madness. If you look at the makeups of all these teams, I mean, Connecticut obviously is the blue blood remaining. They've won national titles. They kind of fit that mold. But I thought Drew brought up an excellent point, and I was going to mention it as well. At Conference USA, we got to talk conferences because, I know Creighton got bumped yesterday, but UConn Big East, Creighton Big East, Xavier was in the Elite Eight. Yep. Marquette was a 2 seed. Big East was a really good conference. And Conference USA was obviously a lot stronger than people realized this season as well. And as I mentioned earlier, Memphis should have probably beaten San Diego State as a Conference USA team in the first round. Drew mentioned Charlotte winning the CBI, which I'd forgotten about. And I was going to point out that 2 of the 4 teams remaining tomorrow in the NIT finals are Conference USA teams as well. And by the way, Florida Atlantic is moving to the American with Memphis. I misspoke there. Memphis used to be Conference USA, but they'll be in Memphis's conference next season. They played them, of course, in the first round, and we're lucky to beat them. The point is, I think these games are wide open. I do think pace favors San Diego State again in this game, and I would agree with the under for several reasons, like Drew said. First of all, the big arena. I know these teams playing it more often. It's maybe been less of a factor in recent decades, but still huge football stadium, and it's the first game. Maybe they'll shoot better on Monday, but I think the Saturday game is going to be difficult, and these are 2 really good three-point defenses. Both are holding their opponents below 30% on the road this season. FAU does rely a little bit more on the 3, which could bring some random variance into this game. However, you look at the offensive ratings, they're top 30 both offense and defense. San Diego State 4th in defense, but 75th in offense. They're by far the weakest, most inconsistent offensive team remaining. And historically speaking, you've got to beat top 25 offensively to win the national title. And San Diego State's the only team remaining that's not. I think if it's a low-scoring under game, which I think it will be, that probably favors the Aztecs.
It's such a unique matchup here, Tony Finn. I know you knew the UNLV answer because you were there. But and it's hard to believe that that's the only one that we've ever had. So that's not one of the blue bloods or blue blood conferences. But boy, oh boy, San Diego State, they defend like their lives depend on it. They've got absolutely no problem. They are deep. They've got a lot of depth. They've got length. They got some athleticism. They just can't hit water if they fell out of a boat offensively at points. So I don't know. Do you favor defense or do you favor offense at this point in the tournament?
Well, it's funny. I was very successful with San Diego State. I had them, I think, on the show last week. Maybe I even called them an outright winner in their game against Bama, and I did sprinkle a little money on the money line there. But I thought that was just a horrible matchup for Alabama, and it's because of the turnovers. If you watch San Diego State play, if you watch them play defense, they're just so technically sound. They're long. They're exhausting. Imagine you guys everybody here has played basketball at some point in their lives to some degree. And the worst thing that can go on for 40 minutes is when you can't even take 1 second of a breather or relax for 1 minute or casually do anything, because you do anything casually offensively against this Aztecs team, you're going to pay. And Alabama struggled against turnover. When they lost this year, they lost because they had too many turnovers. It wasn't ridiculous. It's how it happened. If you look at FAU, you look at how they've won. I've never given depth. I've never given it so much weight in a tournament compared to regular season, guys, because of the differences in timeouts, the number, the length, halftime even. It's bigger. Depth has never been. I mean, some of these teams, the national championship teams, play 6, 7 guys. That's it when they get to the tournament. 7 guys. FAU has outscored their opponents in the final 10 minutes of games this year, 98-66. That's ridiculous, too, for a team that depends on threes. I give San Diego State an edge here, not only because at this point in time, what we've seen is this. We've seen defense rule. Really, I mean, even UConn is a better defensive team metrically than Gonzaga, although I think Gonzaga was undervalued. And don't get me wrong, the difference in that game, the margin of victory got to the point where it's one of those dominoes, or the snowball effect, where you get down and then you start doing things that are outside your character as a team, and they don't go right, and the whole thing collapses on you. So that said, in this first matchup, FAU versus San Diego State, coaching, not that I don't think FAU is well coached, but if you look at how this team's coached, how every player fulfilled, they know their responsibilities. There's no star. There's no dancing after a shot. There's no They just do their job. This is a really, really, really good game. One I like much better than the UConn Miami game, only because I fear for Miami. I really fear for Miami defensively. They were fortunate with where they're at. I thought they were fortunate to be Texas. Yada yada yada, Joe. I really like San Diego State, and if it gets to the point where we have San Diego State and UConn in the finals, which that would be my today, this minute would be my projection, then it should be fun, shouldn't it?
Well, I think it's going to be fun either way at this point. I don't think fans can lose one way or the other here. It's always good. I mean, it's so nice to see. And I think from this point on, Drew, this is college basketball ain't never going to be the same again. I think March Madnesses are going to be even more madness now. I think it's going to take a few years for everything to level out. But hey, number 1, number 2, and number 3 seeds, a lot of parity in college basketball. We may be getting more Final Fours here like this than we anticipate, because, I mean, Nigel Pack has got to be the greatest free agent ever signed to let's talk about this Miami team we can. It's so funny, though, but we have to talk about college basketball in terms of free agents, Drew. Because that's pretty much what it is now, whether we want to sugarcoat it or not. Nigel Pack coming to the U here is a big reason why they are facing UConn here, -5.5. We're seeing 5s and 5.5. It's been a little back and forth here. 149.5 here. This one is going to be obviously game number 2 there in Houston there, closer to 9 p.m. Eastern time tip. And here's what we need to know here, Drew. And I looked at the numbers and I couldn't believe it, because you and I were talking over the weekend and just said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Miami Hurricanes, 9-2 against the numbers as underdogs this season. 20-5 against the number as dogs over the past 2 seasons. And 33-12 against the number as an underdog over the past 3 seasons. If it ain't broke, Drew, I ain't fixing it. What are you looking at here in this matchup?
Wow, Joe, great stats, man. That's out of this world. And something like that, guys, it points to me to coaching, the program, guys ready to believing in themselves, if you will. And sure enough, Jim Larrañaga, I mean, Tony was talking about it a little bit, just about coaching. And I was trying to bring that into my handicap here into the Final Four because we get that extra extended time. You know, after the Elite Eight to the Final Four, whereas to the championship game, I kind of discount coaching a little bit because there's only a 1 day turnover. And I came back to all of these teams are very well coached. I mean, May for FAU, Dusty May there, maybe not as well known, but I'm telling you, his team is well coached too, just from watching them this season and how efficient they are. If you made me give an advantage though, Joe, and I think your stats kind of point to that as an underdog role for Miami, I would give it to Jim Larrañaga as the best head coach out there, maybe the best head coach in all of college basketball. You bring up Nigel Pack, of course, leaving an Elite Eight team in Kansas State, coming to Miami, being a big part of this. Isaiah Wong as well. How good Miami is on offense. I mean, what a top 5 offensive efficiency team. I was coming into this, Joe, off the top. I think UConn's going to win the national championship. I mean, seeing a minus 125 to do so, if you needed a future, that's the kind of way I would go. But to your stats is the underdog role for Miami and stepping in front of both the Hurricanes and the FAU Owls, I mean, has just been throwing your money away. And I'm from South Florida, so I feel like I just shouldn't do that, if you know what I mean. I should be on this South Florida bandwagon here. And maybe a whole South Florida national championship. A very difficult game for me overall, Joe. Love the underdog role there. This is going to be a fun one. Late at night, the nightcap, man. And to your point of March Madness being madness, kind of projecting out guys in college basketball, Joe, NIL becoming a factor, that's obviously going to be a huge role. And then also look at the teams playing here. Their travel destinations, 75% of them, San Diego, Boca Raton, Miami, Florida. Is there something to these kids having more of a choice? You know, it's more kind of wide open now and choosing better weather. I don't know. Maybe there's something to that, something to watch going in the future of college basketball, Joe.
A good point, right? I mean, let's be honest. Who wants to hang out in Madison, Wisconsin? In December, no less. But it's good stuff. I mean, listen, it's not a fluke when I see numbers like 33-12 over the last 3 years as a underdog. Larrañaga is the single most profitable coach in college basketball as a dog. I have heard the same argument against Miami when started with Drake. It went to Indiana. Then Indiana went to Houston. I heard all the tech. It's always the same thing. And yet, you know, at 33-12, at some point, Merrill, you got to go, listen, this team, you're going to have to kill this team in order to make sure that they don't get up off the floor. They do it, not just, you know, it's not like a 6-game sample size. It's a 3-season sample size. And I think that says a lot about who Jim Larrañaga is.
Yeah, and exactly 17 years ago to the day yesterday, he took George Mason to the Final Four.
And beat UConn.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah,
and
beat UConn to get there.
Well, and you know, he's a huge players guy. I mean, you could see it in the post-game interviews. He's kissing guys on the forehead. I mean, it's pretty funny. Like, the guys like him. So you're like, well, he gets talent. These guys are transferring in, whatever. He didn't have NBA caliber players at George Mason back in the day, and he got them there. And like you're saying, the underdog record speaks volumes. I think that's one of the best ways to handicap college football and college basketball is to take, when you have a good sample size, when you have 30, 40 games like that, it's a good sample size, and find good underdog coaches. It's a very powerful angle, and it does show what a great coach he is, and he's got the talent there now to win it all. Let's not forget, they were an Elite Eight team last year. Even I'd forgotten that until I heard it the other week. You know, so they've been good here for a few years, and they really wanted to get to the Final Four. My concern now is that they've done it. They take their foot off the gas, because you could hear the players saying, we didn't want to lose in the Elite Eight again. It was obvious when they came back against Texas yesterday. UConn does look like the team to beat. You know, I had a best bet on them against Gonzaga. I didn't expect them to win by 30 plus, but they have all the makings. In fact, going into the Elite Eight, they were the number 1 team in KenPom. They had already hopped over both Houston and Alabama after they lost on Friday. Drew and I have talked about this a lot. You know, teams that are balanced this year. Going into the weekend, Houston, Texas, and Connecticut were the only teams that were top 15 in both offense and defensive efficiency. Texas had a 13-point lead yesterday. They very well could have advanced to the Final Four as well. And they're one of those blue bloods you mentioned, Joe. I mean, if you look at the recent list of winners over the years, I mean, just running it down here the last 5-6 years, Kansas, Baylor, Virginia, Villanova, Carolina, Villanova, Duke, Connecticut, Louisville,
Yep.
Kentucky, Connecticut, Duke, North Carolina, right?
Yep.
Kansas, and then Florida had the 2 before. So I mean, it's like, who doesn't belong here? It's everybody but Connecticut. With that said, though, the line's 5.5, and I knew after that blowout of Gonzaga that you're going to be paying a premium to back Connecticut the rest of the way. And I think Miami's a live dog here, could win the game, but I think you're definitely getting some value now at plus 5.5, and that underdog record with Larrañaga is a nice little extra plus. I'm going to do a Fade the Public edition later this week when I get the numbers finalized. Before I'm not seeing so far, Public is leaning towards Connecticut, and I bring that up because they've been on Miami the last 2 rounds, and even with the outright win over Texas, it does look like the UConn dominance is going to outweigh that. So I think there's some compelling reasons to take the Hurricanes plus the 5.5 to keep it close.
So there's no doubt that UConn, Tony, and you alluded to it just before here. I mean, listen, UConn is the best all-around team. Top 5 offense, top 5 D. I mean, every metric in the world that you want to talk about, they're playing ridiculous here. They're blowing teams out in March Madness. It's just been one hell of a run here. However, if this was a best 4 out of 7, there'd be no question. But this is a one-game situation right now, which makes this very tricky, right? Because anybody can beat anybody on any given day. UConn is the favorite, but the question is there any value in going against them in this game, in your opinion? Or should you just look for opportunities to back, Connecticut, like Drew mentioned, at minus 125 for the future market to win it all? They ain't going to be a dog against FAU or San Diego State, right? So
No.
Why not this? That's not a bad way to look at it either.
Well, that's absolutely spot on. I mean, we'd have to do the math, but Drew mentioned futures and the minus, what is it right now, Drew?
125.
130, 125. Are you better off? I mean, I just came popped in me. Are we better off just playing UConn to win money line first game? The first game's going to be a little heavy, right? If the points were at 5, 6 points, you're going to pay the premium there. But if it gets down to a UConn, Sandy, is it better? The minus 120. That's another story, another day, probably. But that would be one thing I'd look at. Larrañaga is a better coach than Hurley, right? Maybe he isn't, but we know a lot more about Larrañaga and what he's done. We know the Hurleys and their basketball history, and they've been in some big games, right? Here's my question to you, all of you here. And the one question I said, I'm fearful for Miami. I'm fearful for Miami because what happened to Gonzaga can happen to Miami against this UConn team. If it gets to the point where Miami's having to do some things outside of their skill sets, it could domino, and this could be another 20-point win for UConn. However, UConn hasn't been tested. Look at the average win, margin of victory, 20 plus points, right? 25. Yep. Ridiculous. What happens to Hurley and this group of guys if the last 10 minutes of the second half or the last 5 minutes, they're in a closely contested game where they have to make shots that there's more pressure. We really don't know. We really don't know. I've seen them fold a few times this year. I've seen Miami fold a few times. I started playing Miami, guys, when they proved there was a point in the season when they'd won on the road in ACC play. And I said, they won a couple, and I said, this is a good team. This is a good team. If they can get over that road, virus that they've had for so many, then they're going to be good. And they really finished strong. And I wasn't on them or against them, not one time in this tournament. And I was on them most all season and made some change on them. I like the matchup, but I'm having a problem with one side or the other because, again, how I just outlined it for you is how I see it happening. It can be a big blowout. It could be, if it's a close game, I think Miami wins.
Good point. It's true, Merrill. When it comes to math, we always go to you. Minus 125 here for UConn to win it all. They will absolutely, if they do win this game, they will not be an underdog to either of those other two teams. So does it make sense to hop on the future price here while it's still this low?
Yeah, I think the question becomes, what do you think the line will be in the other games? I'm just glancing at my power rankings right now. I mean, in fact, I'll use like the predictor and the Sager again. It usually comes within a couple points. It's about 5.5 over San Diego State right now. And you got to figure it'd be a teeny bit higher, maybe since they were actually favored against Florida Atlantic. Although Florida Atlantic wins that game, I'd say they'd be neutral. So I think it's going to be about the same price range, right? So you can kind of do the math pretty quick. They're currently a 5.5-point favorite. Money line is around minus 240. So once again, if you had to lay the minus 240 twice, you could figure it out and see if it's worth doing that. You put $100 bet, you're getting 41 back, so you'd be risking 141 at 2.4. You get 58 back, so you're basically getting 91 back for 100. It's a 101 minus 110 is my quick math, Joe. So you're probably better off doing the money line parlay.
Boom! See, it's why we go to Merrill there for the math there.
That's the first time I've done any real math on this show. You got to let Rob Bina know there is occasionally some real math.
That's why it pays to hang with us here,
and
guys.
I was well hydrated, so that's why I could do the math. I'll be happy.
That looked like vodka.
That was exactly
well,
man, yes.
See, in Tony Finn's world, well hydrated means a big mug of vodka, so that's
it's
not
great. It's the great
Your shirt looks like it's been drinking vodka.
Mathematics.
You look like you washed your laundry in vodka.
All right, so we got a couple of choices here, guys. It's a good precursor to what is about to happen, but we still have a couple of games still going on. Before then, we've got, of course, UAB getting ready to do battle. We got Wisconsin getting ready to do battle. We do have some NIT action coming up. So for this edition of our best bets, we'll go around the horn. I don't care what game it is. If you're leaning one way or the other, whether it's the NIT or it's anything to do here with this Final Four situation, or even a future bet, it is $9 Monday. So no doubt all three of you guys have something going on up at WagerTalk.com. And Drew, we'll start with you here. Tell us if you have anything ready to go on a $9 Monday and what you may be leaning towards at this point for the show.
Absolutely, Joe. Got a $9 Monday play up in the Final Four of the NIT. I really like. Hit each of the last two in the NIT. So looking to go 3 straight to end the tournament. Joe, for best bet, man, I don't know if I should go Final Four, the NCAA or NIT, but I think I'll keep it with the NIT, and I'll go to the other game, North Texas and Wisconsin. Mean Green, guys. I'm going back to this Conference USA. I think that they're just underrated overall, and seeing the money line right now, minus $1.25 on North Texas to punch their ticket into the NIT championship game in the Orleans, in Las Vegas. First game up tomorrow night. I'll go with the Mean Green over Wisconsin, Joe, for Conference USA to get into the championship of the NIT. Overall, can't wait for the Final Four, guys. Be in with the card here, and we got opening day. Talk about underrated weeks in the sports betting calendar, Joe. Yes. Final Four, opening day. Nothing like opening day on the bases. And of course, we got first pitch, guys, right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. This week, mostly at 1:30 Eastern, 2 o'clock Eastern, starting next week. So get ready for that best baseball show out there. And hopefully Tony Finn isn't really drinking warm vodka early afternoon on a Monday. But overall, great show, Joe. Thanks for having me there.
Cold vodka.
Don't worry. We're putting Finn on a pitch clock. We're going to be as close to baseball, real baseball this year. We're good to go. Talk to us here, Merrill. You got $9 Monday. I believe you mentioned NBA. What is a play we should be looking at here, though, this week in college?
Yeah, going to look at a free play for the Final Four for Saturday in college basketball. Those of you that are joining us on Monday, though, don't forget it is $9 Monday. Not only do I have a strong NBA best bet right now for Monday night, but I've got a 2-for-1 NCAA Final Four special posted in advance for $9 Monday. If you missed it on $9 Monday, you can still get the 2-for-1 combo anytime this week, but it'll be a little bit more expensive. It might not be a bad time to check out a 7-day all-access, though, because baseball starts this Thursday. Every team is playing on opening day. And, of course, number one this year in 2023 in the NBA. I mentioned that strong best bet tonight. So college and pro hoops, baseball this week. Great time to get an all-sport, all-access pass. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Let's look at a free total for Saturday in the first game at 6 Eastern on CBS. Going to take under 131.5 between Florida Atlantic and San Diego State. Aztecs started the season playing a little faster than in years past, but then they got back to their normal ways. They've been playing a lot better because they know they have to win with defense. In fact, if you look at the efficiency rankings, top 5 defense, but they're not even a top 70 offensive team. They're by far the weakest offensive team remaining in the Final Four. So they well know they have to win with defense, and that's what they've been doing. They really had an ugly slugfest in a couple rounds here, and I think they keep it going. They've built into that belief. 57-56 over Creighton, took down number 1 Alabama. They know defense wins. Florida Atlantic can play that way, though. They played North Texas and Charlotte 4 times this year, 363 Division I teams, and Charlotte and North Texas from Conference UA were the 2 slowest teams in the country. And Florida Atlantic also just played Tennessee last week, 117 total in that game. In fact, 3 of those 5 games against Charlotte, North Texas, Tennessee, 60% of them went under this year. Look for a low-scoring game, and don't forget it's in a football stadium in Houston as well. Sight lines are going to be tough. 2 of the best 3-point defenses in the country as well. Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, under 131.5 on Saturday.
Boom. There you go, guys. All right, good stuff there. And Tony Finn, $9 Monday. Yeah. Tell us what do you got locked, loaded, ready to go? And give us a play you might be leaning towards here.
Nothing loaded. However, I will, and there's a reason why, because we're still quite a ways away from 36 hours, whatever it might be, from the NIT championship, and we are 5 days away from Division I, from the NCAA championship game. So that said, I will have picks up after the show. I'm finalizing things. NBA as well, looking at a couple lineups. I like a couple games, but I want to make sure this time of year my ducks are in a row. I've crossed my I's, dotted my T's. Crossed my I's and dotted my T's. Yes, that is what I said. That is what I mean. And then we'll release those too, because I like a couple plays tonight. So we'll see right after the show. As far as free play, I'm going to go to. I'll go to the NIT too. I'll go with Drew here, and everything he said pretty much about North Texas is accurate. This is a team I thought probably should have been in the big dance. Look at how they played this year. Look at the conference. Of course, that's hindsight, right? We can see what the conference has done now since then. But I've liked them then. I like them now. They play slow. Here's the deal. And we'll insult Madison, Wisconsin twice, Joe. You've already insulted who would want to live in Madison, Wisconsin, right? They're better than Wisconsin. Every single variable that I think is important, every single one of them, they're better than the Badgers. They're better at the free throw line. They're better rebounding. They're as good, better defensively, and they can score at a much higher efficiency rate. Only 1.5. North Texas in a breeze.
Wow. Love it. North Texas in a breeze. All right, guys, I'm going to throw out just 3 trends that are intriguing that you should know about. Number 1, speaking of the Aztecs, since February 1st, San Diego State is 14-1 to the under. 14-1 since February 1st to the under. And here's the kicker. It's gone under in those games by an average of almost 13 points. So the books can't seem to get it right with the totals there in San Diego State here. Also, we told you, but again, it bears repeating. Larinaga and company, 9-2 this year against the number as a dog. 3-12 as a dog here over the last 3 seasons. And one final one for UConn fans here, guys. They are 15-0 this year, straight up, 14-1 against the number when they face anybody else except their Big East counterparts. So in non-conference games, they haven't lost straight up against anybody. So pretty special year here for UConn. All of these teams have some intriguing trends and angles, of course, going their way. We'll be talking more about this all week long here, guys. And of course, as we get a little bit closer to the weekend and to the Final Four, we'll have more thoughts and takes, and of course, updated lines and all that good stuff. But in the meantime, no reason for you not to take advantage of $9 Monday over at WagerTalk.com. Drew just told you he is locked, loaded. Best bet in the NIT coming up here. It is yours, $9 right now over at WagerTalk.com. Steve Merrill in the association, $9. And I guarantee before it's all said and done, Tony Finn, his best bets will be up here today for $9 as well. So there you go. We got a couple of days to catch our breath here before what should be a crazy Final Four coming your way. And of course, we'll be back again a little bit later in the league. We'll break it all down for you and we'll narrow it down here with just, 3 games left, really, in the college basketball season. So much still to get to. Until then, though, on behalf of Drew, Steve Merrill, and the one and only Mr. Tony Finn. Guys, we appreciate the time. Let's finish this year off strong. Let's finish it off with cashing some tickets, and we'll be back again a little bit later this week to do so. So best of luck with all the plays here tonight, guys. We'll talk to you a little later in the week. Good luck.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, when all daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including 5% best bets, normally priced at $35. As an added bonus, any picks packages loaded early for overnight Tuesday or action during the week will also be priced at $9 until midnight on Monday. So make sure to take advantage of getting these $25 and $35 picks for only $9 before the clock strikes 12 and they return to regular price.